What's up, everyone? I'm Coach, and welcome to Weekly Wargaming Questions. This is where we answer wargaming questions about wargaming, hobbying, and anything else that you'd like to ask. In this week's question, do you use a wet palette? So before we get into this week's question, if this is your first time here, why don't you consider subscribing? We also have a Discord server, link is below, and if you want to support the channel even more, why don't you consider joining our Patreon? Okay, so in the past few years, I've seen a ton of wet palettes come out. There are Kickstarters, there are ones that, they've been around for a long time. How to make your own, go buy one, go do this, do that, use it, and everything like that. A lot of times I see that a lot of guys use it for blending or mixing of colors. They use it also to put all their paints out on there, and then they have it ready to go. I like to use a wet palette. I've been using one for about 3 years now, and I think it's fantastic. But when it comes to mixing the colors together for wet blending, or just taking two colors and as you go along, say from a dark gray to a mid gray to a light gray and make the transition in between, it is fantastic. But when I've seen guys that say you can take a wet palette, you put a lot of paint on it, and it's good for a few days. It's not really that good. Certain paints will last 1 or 2 days on there that you can use. You can come back, and certain paints, like as you're painting, don't work anymore. I think the best part of the wet palette is it saved me. I'd say it saved my paints and saved me a lot of money in the fact that I used to use a paper plate that I had for years, and I would put it on there, and the plate was actually very heavy compared to a regular plate. It's a few ounces more. You could feel the noticeable difference, and I would say, how much paint am I wasting on this dry plate as opposed to the wet palette? And what I've noticed is the paints stay around for longer. So if you're doing a paint session, I would put it on the plate. I would paint a little bit, go back, paint a little bit, go back. Oh my God, it's dry, and I go back. With the wet palette, I can paint it, maybe move away or do something, go get a drink, go to the bathroom, go let the dog in, and then come back, and the paint is still fresh on the wet palette. So if you use it for the bare minimum of saving paints, I think a wet palette is revolutionary. Now, when you start with blending, with wet blending, with all different techniques, it will add to that because your paint is fresh. But like I said, I really like it because it keeps the paint ready to be painted at the time that I do, and also when you go back to the color, it's still fresh. Do you use a wet palette? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so that's it for this week's question. If you have a wargaming question that you would like answered, why don't you leave a comment below and we'll get to it in another video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.